Dan Cox. So.
Thank you all very much. It's an honor to be here tonight, and I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Republican women of Harford County. It's always an honor to be part of the delegation of the 42 Republicans in Annapolis and the senators to welcome you for the annual day that you all come down as Maryland women. And I tell you, that day in Annapolis tends to be one of the strongest showings of any conservative group. And it's great to be here in Harford County to try to encourage and lift us up that we are in a state that is hungry for the freedom that we know and believe in. Yep. I'm running to restore that freedom, to give us our Constitution back. And let me tell you how we're going to do it. First of all, we're going to end the mandates. There will not be any more they've been illegally ordered. We're going to end the mask mandates. Do you know that children to this day are still forced masked in Prince George's County public schools, 8 hours a day? In my county, suicidal ideation went up 34% in the last 2 years for children. Children committed suicide over these mandates. It's a disgrace. It's going to end on my watch.
Yes.
Secondly, we're going to end the CRT and the division of Marxist indoctrination in our schools. Get back to teaching reading and writing and arithmetic and STEM technology and things that make us proud again and give opportunity and the ability to lift us all up and to say, you know what, if I want to have a business, I can do it. If I want to build my house, I can do it. If I want to have a job or advance a career, I can attain that goal. Once again, in Maryland, and children need to understand this, instead of having the reverse happening, where the division and the hate is being taught instead. Like in Baltimore City, we dumped $2 billion into the city schools, only to have a 1% return rate, with the largest number of administration officials making over $100,000. That's going to end on my watch. We're going to return the power to the people with school choice and with opportunities for all. We're going to back the blue. We're going to make sure our streets are safe again. We're going to end the catch and release program of illegal aliens to the shuttle over our cities. And you know what? This is being done right now, and an extra $1 billion was put in for the welfare programs that include this catch and release. We can end up going to strip that out of the budget. We're going to end the paying for taxpayer-paid abortions. And this distinguishes me from my opponent who said she would be to the left of Governor Hogan, who just recently vetoed the abortion legislation, and she said in the Baltimore Sun she would not do that. I will do it. I will make sure that we once again return the taxpayer dollars to you. We're going to return your Trump tax cut that's sitting in the Treasury right now, $2.5 billion, back to you. We don't need to spend it on these programs. We have $7 billion sitting in the Treasury right now. $2.5 billion was what President Trump gave the entire nation in the tax cuts in our Congress. And instead of giving it back to you like almost everybody else in the nation got, it's sitting in Annapolis. At the same time that inflation is creating a tax on us. I don't know about you, but I can hardly pay at the pump. I have a diesel truck. I thought I was going to make out well by doing diesel, you know, but it's not working out so well for me. Diesel's over $6 a gallon. We're at $5 a gallon gas. The inflation tax is horrific. I'm going to end the inflation tax, including on property taxes, which is a broad policy across all political party lines. This will end my life. So I'm asking for your vote. I see my time is up and looking forward to hopefully answering your questions to the best of my ability. And it is an honor. I thank God for this opportunity to speak up for my kids and for your kids and for our families. Thank you so much.
Okay. As governor, and knowing that at this time we have a very leftist legislature, which we hope to change, and understanding you don't have some options to do executive orders like some other governors, we have a few questions that are very broad. Taxes. Cost of living is high in Maryland. We have property taxes, retirement, inheritance taxes. are all high, and people are leaving Maryland to go elsewhere where taxes are not so high. We have all these environmental programs that are in the budget, plus a huge additional education tax. And this year, Governor Hogan announced a budget surplus. What is your position in paying the taxes?
So I just want to say real quickly on the WHO question, that's a very serious issue. Everyone should be getting in touch with their congressman. I'm so proud of Andy Harris working on this issue to protect all of us. If you don't know what this is about, as the gentlelady said, it's something that needs to be addressed. And I stand opposed, and as governor, the WHO, the World Health Organization, will have no jurisdiction in America. I assume the question is that since I don't have executive powers like other governors, well, that's because they didn't have them anyway. We all understand this, right? The overreach of the executive orders is egregious. The executive orders were intended to order the executive branch, as well as other agencies in the government. That's the intent. But there's a lot that can be done through executive orders to return the money to you. Right now, the taxation is outrageous, and the inflation is giving you an extra inflation tax such that the senior tax credit, which I did vote for, which gives us $500 to $1,700 back. Everyone who's retired can get this credit if you're within the income bracket. The problem is it doesn't even keep up with inflation. If you get a $500 tax benefit, the inflation rate right now is pushing 9%. So you're going to burn through that before you ever get a benefit. It might even go negative in your senior retirement payment. Now, we can change that immediately by starting to push down on these property assessment values. And I'm going to do like Ronald Reagan pushed when he was president, to tie in the constant dollar rate so that we have a true assessment value of the property taxation rate. For instance, I don't know about you, but I got a bill for 34% higher than last year. Because of inflation. This is an outrage. We can have our home values be what the free market has them be without allowing a tax assessor, which is under the governor's administration, under the Department of Taxation and Assessments, going throughout the state, raising property taxes in my view, in an improper and dishonest fashion. Not that they're dishonest, but the market is being dishonest by saying that the inflation is real dollars. It's not. It's an inflated value, and so we have to have a valuation system that reduces that inflation immediately, which will cause our taxpayer dollars to come right back to us. The property taxes will be stated. Let me tell you this, Prince George's County, I did a Democrat debate, and by the way, I show up at debates, my opponent does not. She's not shown up to one Republican debate, and she's not shown up to one Democrat debate. I've shown up to all of them, including 3 Democrat debates. You want a Republican who's going to fight for you with the Democrat debates. You want a Republican who'll say, like I did to Prince George's County. Democrats that asked me, how are you going to help me keep my house? I paid it off, and now I can't pay the tax. I said, because I'm going to issue an order with the Department of Taxation and Assessments. Yes, it's an independent agency, but if they don't listen, if we don't get this done, their budget's going to be cut. $62 billion budget. We can make this happen and provide property tax relief. And also the other taxes that you mentioned have to immediately be reduced as well, and we're going to push hard for that. And when you show up to fight, the legislature gets very embarrassed if they don't go along. And that's how the governor got the senior tax relief this year, was he showed up to fight. Now sadly, the end of the result was the Democrats passed this really weak type of relief, but we did get something because we fought. So I'm going to do that even more.
Crime, drugs, overdose, and mental health are big issues with some problems, and Governor Hogan has allowed the undocumented immigrants to come here, and they bring those issues with them as well. What is your position and your plan on how to combat this?
So I worked hard to get our governor elected because some of the issues that we knew were happening we thought would be stemmed. The tide would be stopped. They did not. In fact, the Biden administration was welcomed in by my opponent and her boss. Undermining the America First values, undermining the President of the United States, 45, who I'm so honored and privileged to be endorsed by.
Yeah.
I was sitting in his office in Mar-a-Lago, His wonderful secretary told me, "You have 20 minutes." I said, "Yes, ma'am." I'm just so excited. Here I went in, and the president talked to me for an hour and 15 minutes. He said, "Here, as I'm leaving, grab that hat off my shelf. I'm going to sign it for you." And he said this. He said, "Dan, we've got to win this because the country is at stake." He really is concerned for the country. And he sees Maryland as ground zero for the Democrat machine. Tom Perez, DNC, right here, right now, using your money to propagate their intense insanity across the United States. If we don't fight them on their turf here, we will begin to lose bit by bit Texas, Florida, all of these great red states, because they're coming for us. So we're going to come back for them. That's why I'm running. I can debate them. I was on stage with John King, Obama's secretary, when he tried to smear me as a dog whistler, and I just body slammed him, and the Frostburg students came up and took my signs. And said, "Hey, we like this." So you need somebody that'll show up and debate, and I believe that when you have, freedom in the balance, when we have the opportunity to speak freedom, it resonates, and it's a winning strategy. And I don't know that I answered the question, but, oh yes, so about illegal aliens, about the undocumented aliens, let me tell you something, it's serious. I voted to get him in there to stop this, and you know what he's doing, he's releasing it right now in your jurisdiction and making you pay for it. This is the Biden administration, and my opponent said, just recently, we're running radio ads to tell people this. She said, "I can't do anything about it. It's not a state issue. It's a Biden administration issue." Wrong. That is wrong. Our state has an agreement with the Biden administration to pay for them in your community, in sanctuary towns. I'm going to end that. And if any city in Maryland tries to use your taxpayer dollars to provide sanctuary to unvetted, undocumented, illegal entry foreign nationals, we are going to cut the funding. And if President Biden loves them so much, he can open his gates in Wilmington. We'll bust them right there. They're taking your jobs. They're killing your daughters and sons. Right now, there was a young lady murdered and dumped. Her body was dumped in my district. This is a problem for me as much as it is for you. And we have the great 287G program, which I see your sheriff here. It's good to see you, Sheriff. We have the best sheriff in the state, along with your sheriff, I'm sure. My sheriff does 287G, and we get it done. ICE works in our county. We've caught 1,500 terrorists, people that are cartel members, MS-13. They're not in our county, but they're down in Montgomery County. Well, we're going to make that statewide. I'm going to work with the sheriffs and make sure that ICE has the opportunity to take the very dangerous criminals off our streets and protect us.
Abortion. The Maryland legislature passed a 28-day abortion bill and want to fund training nurses, midwives, non-doctors to perform abortions. Hogan originally vetoed and they overturned it. There is talk of making it a right in the Maryland Constitution. What is your position and your plan?
We killed that bill through my committee and also the HGO committee. It did get through the Senate, and then the Senate helped us kill it. And we stripped out a lot of the information, a lot of the funding. Unfortunately, it's like a good socialist communist. What they did is they put 3 bills in, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and they got what they wanted. So we killed the amendment to the Constitution. We killed the 28-day infanticide bill. Many of you might have heard about that one. But what they got through was the abortion funding for doctors, $3.5 million a year, to make sure that they're funding doctors here in Maryland. And you know what that's doing? Right now, they're funding abortions with your taxpayer dollars through the Medicaid program, and it's creating abortion tourism and sex trafficking to cover up sex crimes. That's being paid for on your watch with your taxpayer dollars in this administration. I have fought that along with my Republican colleagues for the last many years. I've been vocal about it. Actually, when I was first elected, I'm the only candidate that was elected on both sides of the bay. My wife is from the Eastern Shore. When I was elected as town council president in the Eastern Shore, I fought it with my senator, my delegate at the time, and now is the senator for that part of the shore. And I said, why is it that there's no other state in the region that uses our taxpayer dollars in the budget to fund abortions? Because they're coming here from Philly, they're coming from Newark, they're coming from Jersey, they're coming from DC. DC doesn't even pay for abortions out of taxpayer money. they're coming from West Virginia, you name it, Richmond, they bus them up. That's wrong, and they're using our money. This is absolutely wrong. And one thing that we can agree on, across all party lines, 80% agree that no matter what your position is on abortion, it should not be funded with our taxpayer dollars, because it's a conflict. I'm going to strip it out of the budget. This bill that passed was a disaster. I'm going to fight this bill. We're going to have an Office of Constitutional Law in the Governor's office, and we're going to fight this legislation and seek to overturn it, and hopefully we'll have an Attorney General like Mike Peruka, who's going to fight this same horrific legislation and return the power to the people and put the money back in your pockets. That's what we need to do. My opponent, like I just said that she would let it happen. This is one of the biggest differences morally between my good opponent and myself. And I respect her. We both come from the same county. But she has made a statement and a line in the sand, and I want you to understand this: policies matter. You cannot win a general election as a weak person on morality. You have to have a distinction from the Democrat that shows that you're going to do something that unifies the taxpayers. I will do that. All taxpayers want to strip the abortion money. It's a winning issue. We shouldn't be afraid of that as Republicans, and I'm going to make sure we push that forward.
Education. Understanding that at this time the Maryland governor doesn't have the same authority as some other governors, what is your plan to keep the state teachers union out of our classrooms, get back to basics and civics in schools? How involved would you be to stand up for the kids and parents' rights?
So I will appoint individuals who will strip out, and if necessary, actually we're going to first order it to be removed, CRT, and this gender identification and doctrine, this transgender doctrine. You know they're doing this behind our backs. They're teaching children in pre-K and kindergarten behind our backs that you don't have to be a boy, you can be a girl if you want to, and by the way, don't tell your mommy and daddy I told you this. They just hired in Baltimore County an individual, a counselor for elementary school, Hillcrest I think it was, or Hill something, who is hired to do just that, to indoctrinate your children. That's going to end right now. You know how these regulations came through the COMAR? I've been fighting the COMAR for years on these equity lens issues. The COMAR is the Code of Maryland Regulations. It's how the State Board of Education passes its rules. It's not law, technically, they're regulations. However, they have the force of law in the schools. You know how they happen? Because of the appointees to the State Board of Education. They're the ones who vote on it. Every single member of the state board is appointed by Governor Hogan right now. Every single one. And this is what we're getting, this kind of crap in our, shoved down our throats. I got smeared on the House floor because they tried to pass a bill to teach 12-year-olds and up behind parents' backs in school that they issues regarding suicide and gender chemical castration change if they're interested. Without allowing the parents to even know the discussions were happening. Now, as a parent, I take great offense to that because parents have a right to know, number one. That's why I introduced the Maryland Parental Bill of Rights Act, HB 618. 50,000 parents in Maryland supported it in committee. 1 week later, I became one of the illustrious 3 members of the United States to be identified. Well, I've been identified a couple times by the governor. But he added one more person. He added on his hate list, DeSantis. He hates on Trump in the national media, he hates on me, and he hates on DeSantis. And he called, this is wrong. And he was so out of line. He was so out of line. And yet my opponent was silent for parents. And then she runs a TV ad saying that she's for parents? Not on my watch. We're going to have a real policy change. We're going to empower the parents, make a change, make the right appointments to the State Board of Ed and the Super Board that they just passed. And if they don't like it, guess who holds the purse strings in Maryland? $62 billion purse string to the budget. That's the governor, and we can make a change with proper negotiation.
Police. How do you intend to support our police?
So this is a very important issue that I've been working on in my committee. We stopped the defund the police movement. I was very proud to stand with my fellow Republicans when we did that. Your sheriff showed up, my sheriff showed up, Sheriff Lewis from Wycomico showed up. and the FOP showed up, the Fraternal Order of Police. They were trying to do some egregious things. They still got some very bad things through. I'm going to do 3 things. I'm going to end the jab for jobs mandate that's being rid of our officers. We have first responders ordered to take the vax and the boosters and are being kicked off their force right now because of this. It's an egregious stupidity. Secondly, we're going to make sure that I would like to see their pay double. I'd like to see our officers paid right. Oh my goodness. They're putting their lives on the line in Baltimore City. You know why they can't hire them? Who in their right mind with proper logic would go be a police officer in Baltimore City right now if you're getting paid $39,000 a year to get shot up? Nope. Not me. Nope. Maybe pay me $100 grand if I'm going to risk that, and I might try it. We have to make sure we pay them right. And then thirdly, I will back the blue and make sure that quasi-immunity stays. We have got to protect them, and so if they get sued for constitutional torts, we're going to have the Office of Constitutional Law make sure if the Attorney General won't back them up. I know the Attorney General's come after your county and your sheriff. We're going to stand in for them. We're going to fight. As much as the constitutional law allows them to back the blue in the courts.
Businesses, what's your plan to keep or bring them into the state?
I didn't quite catch that. Businesses which are what now?
Businesses, what is your plan to keep or bring them into the
Plan to bring
state?
them or keep them. So it's very simple. First of all, I'm not going to do what my opponent did and create a non-essential list and lock down 50% of the small businesses. For the first time, and this is something that just I couldn't understand. It's like, you gotta be kidding me. We can go to Walmart or a liquor store, but my mom and pop, 82-year-old barber who was trying to keep his wife out of the nursing home during a pandemic, that you're gonna shut him down? And if it weren't for the church and the family, that she would have been sent to the nursing home to die, possibly because of the way things were, people were being put back in the nursing homes in our state. And then the monoclonals had a stop use and shelf order 2 days after our governor used them. And my Iraqi war veteran died asking for them at the Frederick Hospital. This is going to end. We got to bring our businesses back by saying we're never again going to oppress you like that. And let's get the tax rate more competitive, right? It's 8.12%, I think, when you could go across the Potomac and save yourself, if you're a business, save yourself thousands, maybe millions of dollars. We're going to fight for our businesses and make sure that they're never again treated that way.
Thank you, Dan. And if you would like to have more information about him, you can go to his website, www.dancoxforgovernor.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.